back. So today I am joined with the lovely Zoe. Zoe is a mum to one and also the founder of Move Thru, which is a company dedicated to helping mums re-find connection and rekindle relationships with friends and partners. So welcome to the podcast, Zoe. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, we've tried to get this episode in for a little while now, so I'm glad we finally managed to get something in the diary. So why don't you start by telling the listeners a little bit about you, your family life, and how you went on to create Move Thru?
Yeah, sure. So I have been doing the company for just over a year, and my little boy is 3. It basically came about, I guess, just to take you back a little bit, even before I had my boy. Always been like super sociable, lots of nice friends, worked in media in London, so it's like a very after work drink sort of vibe. And then moved to New York with my husband, which I really wanted to do. And as soon as I got there, he was traveling a lot and it took me a couple of months to find work. And I just really underestimated how lonely and isolated I would feel. And I actually got depression. I've never had any sort of mental health issues before. So it was like really surprising, really like crap, obviously. Anyway, worked my way through that and, came out the other side of it. And then after 2.5, and had an amazing time in New York. After 2.5 years, we came back to London. And, that was all fine. We went into COVID and then eventually I had our little boy. And a couple of months after having him, I got that same feeling back of feeling like super low, very depressed, very lonely, very isolated. But this time, all of my friends and family were around me. So it was really weird because I couldn't really work it out. Obviously, the first time I actually didn't have anyone around me that I knew. So that was understandable. But this time it was like, just like isolation within, I guess, my mind, because everyone was actually around me, but I wasn't really like connecting with them. I was avoiding people. I was shutting myself off. And I guess it went through a few different stages. At the beginning, I was trying to keep up with my old social life, trying to go out in the evenings, still trying to go like have a dance sometimes. And obviously that just wasn't really working with having a baby. And then I cut myself off completely, and that obviously just made me really depressed. That wasn't working. And then I would like make sort of like plans that fitted around my new life, but then either like, my husband was kept late at work, or like the babysitter would fall through, or my child would get sick, and then I'd have to cancel the plans. And I just felt like, oh, none of this is working. Like, I know that the way to get back to myself is through connection and is through being with my friends and like hanging out with my partner again. But I couldn't find a way to make it work. But I'm just really like stubborn and weird. So I just was like, I'm just not going to accept this. Like, I spoke to loads of mum friends and they were like, well, in the first few years, you just don't really have a social life. Like, that's kind of, it was just like, that's the norm.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just don't accept that. Like, I just can't. I'm just going to get so down if that happens to me. So I basically worked out like everything that was holding me back, all the reasons why I couldn't get the connection that I needed. And then, it took me bloody ages, but then like one by one, I basically like got a solution for all of them. And then I just trial and tested all of those things. And I did have to like tweak a lot of them. And even now I still tweak some of them now. But like after probably like a year of like coming up with all of these methods and solutions and trying them all out to get the perfect sort of, I guess, like toolkit, it like got to a really good place. I was able to go on holiday with my partner. I was able to go on holiday with my friends. I was able to get regular social time in with my friends and my partner. Feel really comfortable leaving my child with like a babysitter or with a friend. And then other mums started asking me, like friends at first just started asking me like what I did. So I was advising them. I just did all of this for me. Like, I didn't do it for anyone else. And then, friends started asking me, and then like their friends that I didn't even know started asking them when they could see them going out more. And then I just thought, okay, well, maybe I should like actually package some of these things up and start helping more people, because I'm sure other mums feel the same, you know, and start feeling cut off and isolated and just like not enjoying motherhood. Because the thing is, when I was then getting like the proper social connection I needed, then I actually loved being a mum.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, I was like, oh God, this is just really hard. It's not that enjoyable. But then, you know, after I'd like had a really good time with a friend and then come back the next day to my child, I'd be such a good mum. Like I'd have so much energy. Like I'd have loads of ideas for like games to play. Whereas when I was just with my child the whole time and not really seeing other people, it was like 30% enjoyment, and but also 30% like good mothering, I guess. And then when I came back after being with somebody that I'd had a great time with, or even like lent on for support or had a cry with, or whatever it was, whenever I'd got that connection from someone and then come back, I could give him like 90% mothering. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like put loads more into it.
I think people do underestimate how much your life changes. Like for me, I actually had a baby at 18, so this is all I've ever known. But my sister, for instance, I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this, I'll check before I put this in. She has been with her partner for 10 years. They've had a really nice life together. They've gone on all these holidays, and they only had a baby. She's just turned 1. And I think she will listen to this and really be like, wow, I need this, because I feel like it's been such a shock to her. I don't think she anticipated how much your life changes and how it needs to adapt. And I'm not stereotyping here, but it is mostly the women's life that changes, because the men get to stay in their normal roles predominantly. You know, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, that's the norm. I mean, that's what's happened with me. It's what happened with my friends. So I feel like it's the woman's life. Her body changes. She goes through her birth. She's the one that deals with the feeding, if she's breastfeeding, all of those things. And then to top it all off, your social life is just completely wiped out. And unless you've got like mum friends that are in the same, like had a baby at the same time as you, it's really hard to have that like bounce back, because I've got friends now who are just having babies, or their children are like 7, and mine's 3 now, so I can't resonate with them because we're not at the same milestones, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think this is so important, and that was actually what stemmed me to create this podcast, is because I found it quite lonely. And even like people listening to this, I get so many people reaching out to me and they're like, that's like my little mum bubble for the week. Like I feel like reset and ready to go. Whatever we've been speaking about, I just hope that they can sort of take something away from it. So going back to you saying, obviously, when you had your little boy, you felt lonely and low. Did you have mum friends then that were in it at the same time as you, or not really?
Yeah, so I joined Bump and Baby, and I got a few local friends from that, which was good. It was good for getting me out the house. Like we went for like walks and like a coffee. And this is on me, not on them at all, because since I have opened up to them, and one of them now is a really good friend, but it was just surface level. So it was just basically for getting out and having a coffee. And all the chat would be about the baby's routines. What's your baby doing? How's your baby sleeping? Which is fine. And it means you're not stuck in the house all day. But what I really try and encourage the mums to do that I work with is, you know, the good thing about being a mum is it is a really good way to meet other people and make new friends. But the only way to make them an actual friend and not just a mum friend or a play date friend is to find out about them and like not always talk about the children. And I really try and tell them after they've built up a few play dates or whatever, to try and, even if it's half an hour, just to have time without the children for a coffee or for a walk. Or a really good one is walking to the nursery together, you know, because you've both got to go the same way. Or if they don't go to nursery, walking somewhere else together. And try and ask them, like, you know, like, what do you actually like outside of being a mum? Or, like, what did you used to do before you became a mum? Like, just so you can really understand them. Because I think where we were just talking about our babies all the time, I still didn't get that actual connection because it was still all about the baby.
But I don't feel like I've met any mums from having my little boy that I thought we've got anything in common other than the fact that we've both got children.
Yeah.
And that is because it's surface level. Like we've not really got to know each other. And that's on me, because I feel like I've got such a busy life that I struggle to fit my friends, my family, my boyfriend all into it as it is. So I'm very much like that as well. So what you're saying is such good advice about literally getting to know them on a deeper level, because I know there's so many mums out here that go to these groups and they're actually for you to have conversations. The babies don't care if you're at a sensory class. They don't actually care. It's for you, really.
Yeah.
For you to build these connections. So going on from that then, when you first started going out more and doing more things, I've been quite lucky because, well, I say lucky, I'm not with my children's dad, so I actually get the time to go out with my friends, and I don't feel like there's any judgment there on me because there are other parents looking after them because it's their turn, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like when people are in a relationship with their partner who they have children with, my sister being one of them, she constantly has this like mum guilt of feeling like, oh, I'm going out. How would you overcome the mum guilt? I'm not saying you should have it, because I definitely don't think you should. It's so important to have that time to yourself. But do you find a lot of your clients are coming to you with that guilt of doing
for
something
sure.
themselves?
So what I try and get them to understand is why they have that mum guilt. So far, out of the mums that I've worked with, it usually boils down to 4 things. So one is programming. So it's like what you've been brought up with. So my mum, there was 3 of us, and it made more sense for her to stay at home with us until we were ready to go to school, and then she went back to work. So in the back of my mind, you know, it's always like a little bit of, it's just different, isn't it? When I send my boy to nursery, it's a different way. The other one is fulfilling your duties. So I think a lot of my mums who are on maternity leave get this one, where it's like everything has to be finished before they will let themselves or give themselves permission to go out with a friend. So, you know, all the housework, you know, the best day ever with the baby, like everything has to be done. But the thing is, as you know, all the housework, all the stuff with the children, it's just a cycle. So it will never be finished.
No.
So you would just never be able to go out, because as soon as like something is finished, then something else needs doing. Yeah. So you're going to have to not have everything finished before you let yourself do anything nice. Another one is worrying about what other people think. So this is, and everyone will be like, no, it's not that. But really think, is it because you feel bad, or because someone's going to be like, oh, didn't they go out last week and now they're out again? You're like, really think if that is the reason why, because that should not be the reason why you don't go out. And I can't remember the other one.
No, that's perfect anyway.
But yeah, those are some of the reasons. And so once you understand the reason, then you can start to question it a bit and be like, well, actually, you know, I would rather, if it's the programming one where your mum stayed at home, then you can be like, well, actually, I didn't actually remember all the time. I don't remember it for the time she stayed at home. I remembered it for these key moments of the things we did together. So, you know, in my case, that's what I try and do, where it's like quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. And like the time that we spend together is like, we do wicked stuff rather than me just trying to like, you know, keep him busy while I'm doing everything else because I'm with him all the time.
Yeah.
Like I really try not to like be on my phone too much when I'm with him. I try to like really make it all about him. But the reason I can do that is because I invest in childcare, and I am lucky to have, you know, friends and family, so that I can like spend all my time on him when I'm with him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to. Yeah. But I didn't want to when I didn't have any help, like, because I was trying to run another business. Like my whole maternity leave, I basically worked on my other business, and he was just there coming with me to the post office, doing the orders, you know, like there while I was just doing all the social media on my phone. So now I really try not to do that.
Yeah, no, that's something that I need to do, because he goes to nursery 3 days of the week, so I need to, like, the 2 days that I do need to do work, I try and get up extra early to try and get it done by say 10, so that I can actually go out and do something with him.
Yeah,
but
nice.
But then literally my phone's like ding ding ding, and instead of just being like, I'll look at that when I get home, I'm constantly like on it. It's just one of those vicious circles. I think mums just can't. So I think I need your help with that. With your relationship, obviously it had been you and your partner for a while, I'm imagining, because you had gone to New York. How long had you been together before you had your son?
We were together 10 years.
Yeah, so it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Did your relationship dynamic change after?
Yes, massively. So the first year, it was really not in a good place. Mm-hmm. It was probably the worst since we've been together. We were just always at each other's throats. I was so resentful. That was, I would say, the overarching theme of year one of parenthood was resentment. Because, like you mentioned before, I just felt like his life hadn't changed as much. I'd given up so much. And yeah, I was just always pissed off at him.
Yeah.
But then I think a key change for us was realizing that we weren't going to get our old relationship back. Like, we were very different people, and he was actually really different as well. So to grow in the new direction together and to like talk to each other about the changes and basically not try and force what we used to be. So like our dates are very different now. Like it's a bit weird to talk about this, but like a lot of like mums come to me about their sex life after children, and I think of my own, like, you really, I mean, maybe not you because you had your child so young, but like really we used to like go out on the weekend, get really drunk, and then, you know, on a Saturday or Sunday morning, that would be like our main time to have sex.
Yeah.
But we don't do that anymore. So it's like, okay, well, if we wait for that, that's going to be like once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So it's really about like rethinking about how you do everything. And like, yeah, your dates, you might want to go for like a little lunch date or a brunch date instead of like going out in the evening because, you know, kids get up so early. So it's like not forcing what you used to have, thinking about what you could do a bit differently. And I think it's a great time to reinvent yourself as well. If there's something you've always wanted to try, then this is like the perfect time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that first year is like, it's make or break, isn't it? And you really need to be a team to get through the other side. If you don't have that partnership there, it's just never gonna work. So looking at it from that point of view, definitely, I think that will help a lot of people. With your relationship now, how does it work in the sense of, does he go out a lot and you go out a lot? Like, how does it work with your friends' circle? Like, do you tend to do a lot together, or is it more that you're helping each other with the childcare, I guess?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix, really. So, like, I went away for a few days last week, and then this week he's away for a few days. So it's definitely a bit of that. But we also have a babysitter. So we actually guarantee the babysitter a certain amount of hours a week.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes that is used for, you know, things like tonight where he's away and I have something on, so the babysitter will take that time. But often if we don't have clashing things in the evening, we'll use that time for a date. And I actually really love having the guaranteed hours because there has been maybe like 2 weeks where we've actually not had any plans, but we've guaranteed the babysitter those hours. So we're like, well, we should go out then, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
And, you know, even if we haven't fancied drinking or anything, it can be like, okay, well, should we go and do a late night session at the gym and like get a sauna afterwards? Or should we just go out and have like a healthy Nando's and go to the cinema or whatever it is? So I actually love that way of doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we try and split it. Like, we definitely both see our friends and we do try and do something together. At least, well, a proper thing, I would say twice a month, but then in the week, like days when our boys at nursery, we'll try and get we'll just get a coffee together.
Yeah.
Or some lunch together.
That's so nice. So I asked people why they think that they struggle to make the time with their friends or their partners. A few of the reasons were money, lack of babysitters. I've lost a lot of friends since having children. Work pattern shifts with my partner. He does days, I do nights. I'm a single parent with not a lot of help, so I struggle to socialise without my toddler being there. In those instances, if the people are coming to you, how do they get over that? Like, one by one, I guess we'll start with money side of it.
Yeah. So this is like a really nice time of the year to have a nice cozy date in. And your date doesn't have to be out, by the way. Like, especially if your child is quite a guaranteed sleeper, it's actually fine to do your date inside. But I think the way to make it a date is to make it different from your normal ones, your normal like evenings. So I always think like the area in your house is really important. So don't just have dinner where you always have dinner, or don't just sit where you always sit. Try and like take it into either a different room, or like we actually like sit in the garden and like put blankets on, and like we've got a little fire pit. So like try and use a different area of your where you live. Try and make special food or drinks, like make it like a treat. And then don't be on your phone too much, or like it's fine if you want to watch a film as part of the date, but have like at least an hour where you're actually just chatting, and like you would on an actual date, you know, like even if you went on a date to the cinema, you'd probably go for a little drink or a meal before. So just treat it like that. So you can definitely do it at home, but those would be like my little tips to make it to make it feel like a date.
A bit special.
And then you don't really have to spend any money. Or the other thing that we do quite often is just go for a walk, or go for a coffee. We've gone for a little run sometimes. So there's definitely things. It doesn't have to be about going out and spending money. It's really more about where you can like talk to each other and where you can just have a laugh together. Actually, sometimes like the worst place is in a busy or a loud restaurant.
Yeah.
So this is actually, you know, not a real blocker at all. Of course, it's nice to go out sometimes, but you can definitely do it without that.
Yeah. And what about if you are struggling with like, well, I suppose lack of babysitters comes into that as well. You can just obviously put them to bed in the evening and do it then, couldn't you? Or even if they're at nursery, try and grab a few hours in the day, like you said. With like friendships, obviously people that have written in have said that they've lost certain friendships, or they don't have the babysitters there to help if they wanted to go out with their friends, or, you know, the toddler's always with them. How do you get around that?
Yeah, so I'll just do the babysitting one first, because I'm actually doing a few workshops about this at the moment. So with the babysitting one, what I would suggest is think about like 2 or 3 people, or maybe you even have more than that, of friends and family who wouldn't mind babysitting once a year. And especially think about your friends who maybe don't have children. So like if somebody asked me before I had children, would you mind babysitting for me once a year? Like I'm not getting out much. You know, I'll tell you everything to do, but would you mind doing that for me? I'd be like, yeah, obviously, mate. Like I'll do it like once a quarter. Totally fine. Like all I've got to do really is sit there, you know, look after the baby, and like it means my friend's having a lovely bit of social connection. Of course I would do that for you. So think about a few people that would mind doing that for you, including any family. And then once you've got like who would do it, then think about if they would mind doing it. We'll speak to them and see if they would mind doing it, you know, twice a year or 3 times a year. And then what you can do is list out your months, you know, the next 6 months or the next year, and then pop their name by each month, you know, the month that you want to do something. And then you should have at least 6 months worth of a free babysitter, you know, one per month. And then you can plan to do something in that time. I would say make it, you know, easy for your babysitter. So, you know, if your friend works in town, they're not going to be out of work till late. Maybe say, do you mind doing a Saturday morning? Or, you know, make it like convenient for them.
Yeah.
And then you can literally have like one social outing per month if you think about all the people that can help you for free. And that's not including your partner.
Yeah.
So then you should have even more. So that would be my tip for babysitting. So in terms of, you know, either losing friends or trying to get back in contact with old friends since you've had children, I guess one bit of advice would be don't worry about trying to be the old you. Like, obviously you change a lot when you become a mum. And at the beginning, I made the mistake of like, you know, trying not to talk about any of that with my old friends, especially friends that didn't have children. Or like trying to be like the old me where I'd like, you know, still want to go out all the time. But really, like everyone has changed. Everyone is changing. You know, I went out with my friend recently. He's been living abroad for a long time. And he comes back about once a year and does these big drinks. And he's always been like a big party guy. And I saw him recently and he's moving back. So at his like, you know, yearly drinks, I said, oh my God, that would be great when you're back, you know. But I was trying to like think of things that we could do together which weren't always based around drinking. So I said, you know, maybe we can do some gym sessions together, or maybe I can meet you for coffee sometimes. And he was like, yeah, we'll just come around for tea. He was like, I don't ever do this anymore. Like, I just am at home all the time usually.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, he's changed so much, and I had no idea. And he's on the same wavelength as I am now.
Yeah.
But I think you always think that everyone's having a great time and everyone's crazy, and everyone's getting older and everyone's changed. Everyone wants to be a bit healthier nowadays. Everyone doesn't try not to drink as much. So don't try and deny that you've changed, I guess. Just embrace it and be proud of it. And then with, trying to get back in touch with old friends, I would say maybe just send that text and say, this made me think of you. I know we haven't spoken for a while. It's been a bit crazy, but, I would love to, meet up soon. And then offer an idea for meeting up with them, because it really just does take one person to do that. And, what's the worst that can happen?
And going back to what you said at the beginning, I guess if you feel like you don't have any new friends, maybe try baby groups and try to get, through that surface level and try to get to know them a little bit better as well. That could play into that. With some of the questions that I've had here, I'm going to pick your brain. So somebody said, is it possible to get the spark back after losing it after children? I feel like we're both at the bottom of each other's list, and since having our 2-year-old, it feels different. We've been together for 11 years and I don't want to chuck it all away, but equally feel like we're more like brother and sister now.
Yeah.
I bet you hear that a lot, don't you?
Yeah. Basically everyone says that to me. I was watching the Kardashians recently, and it's where Courtney's just had her baby, and her and Travis are so loved up, and I thought, I've literally never ever seen that.
No.
Never.
They're weird though, aren't they? Them two together, they're so in love.
So it's just so normal to feel like this. What I would say is, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but you're both changing together. So if you can go through that change together, you're going to be so much stronger afterwards. So instead of both changing separately but living together, try and really talk about how different you feel nowadays, what you're enjoying that's new, and then use it as an opportunity to try stuff that you haven't tried before together. So maybe you've never ever meditated together before, but maybe you're both a bit more anxious nowadays. Why not just try that together now? Just really use it as a bit of a crossroads. I feel like me and my husband have both changed so much, and I actually way prefer this new version of him as a dad. I guess that's because I've changed as well. So if you can find a way to change together, I think it's just going to go from strength to strength. I think it's when you're both sort of going in different directions a little bit.
And that romantic spark as well. It's hard if you're both not on the same team and you're not having that intimacy, I guess, as well. It's hard to bring that back in if you're not both on the same page, isn't it? Would you say honest conversations are the key to getting it back? How do you address that with somebody? You don't want to hurt their feelings by saying, look, I feel this way or that way. How do you go about that? Actually having that initial conversation.
Yeah, look, we had a lot of rows in that first year, and sounds like you did as well. But definitely talk. It's not always going to be easy. But I think it comes down to respect, if you're finding things really hard, then you would hope that your partner would help you and, see how they can support you, and vice versa. I guess it's, when you're butting heads, it's because they either don't understand what you're going through, or they don't, I guess they just don't get it. So, but it does take, it sounds really bad, it does take men a while to adjust. I guess because it hasn't, you've been pregnant for so long that you're kind of already in the motions of changing.
Yeah.
Whereas I do feel like it takes them, I would say, a good 6 months to catch up with what's actually happened.
They do say there's 4 trimesters really in pregnancy, don't they? And the men really struggle with the 4th. It's the adapting of having the baby around, and even them, they become a little bit you don't care about me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's no, I do, but I've got all these other things that I've got to prioritise as well. Another one that we've had through was that they struggle to meet new people. My daughter's 10, so I don't go to baby groups, and I feel really socially awkward around others as it is, but it would be really nice to have some girlfriends.
Yeah. So I would say that you haven't missed the boat.
Yeah.
Because at 10, your little girl's going to still be going to school, and she's probably going to be doing some clubs. So it's still such a good chance to meet other mums. I would say really like try and see who's your vibe. So I look at, my boy's a bit younger, so in the park I look at, who I can see when someone's talking to their child, if they're like a bit funny and like a bit sarky, then I'm like, oh, like she's funny, I'm going to get on with her. Or like, no, it sounds silly, but like if you like what they're wearing, or you like how they, I don't know, or what they're doing with their child, or whatever, you get a vibe from someone, don't
definitely.
you? Then I think an easy way to, I think obviously we get very scared of rejection. So instead of just being like, do you want to hang out? Your little way to soften that is something I do all the time. It's with or without you energy. So try and think of something that they would probably like to do. Don't make it too niche, but you could try something like, oh, by the way, after the school run, I'm just gonna get a quick coffee if you wanted to get one with me. Do something that's like very easy, very, you would like, somebody else would like to do it. And basically it just takes the sting out of it a little bit. If they say, oh no, sorry, I can't, I've got to rush to work or whatever it is, you can still go and get the coffee and you don't feel so much like it's not just such a letdown, rejection.
That's so true.
I literally do it all the time.
Yeah. I literally took my little boy to the zoo about 6 months ago now, and there was a lady there with her little boy, and my little boy went running up to him and they were playing and stuff. And it ended up, she was there with her husband and her other son as well, pushing him in the pram. I ended up spending the whole day with them. And at the end, I was like, can I have your number? And she was like, I was just about to ask you for yours, but I didn't want you to think I was being a weirdo. Aww. And I was like, no, because you can just tell, like, the boys were playing really nicely together. I'm quite a sarcastic mum, like you say. She was being like that. And I was like, yeah, you're my vibe. And they were both the same age. And it's nice to have children the same age that if you wanted to go to the park, it's not... I hate doing a lot of like soft plays and things like that. I really hate it. But if there's another child there, he'll run off and play with that child in the soft play. I can then have some adult interaction with the mum and we're all having a lovely time, I'm fine outdoors, actually. It's a soft play. I can't stand... I'll just think of all the germs. I told you before we started.
Soft plays are gross. They are so bad.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, I think this is the rejection, isn't it? Because I was a bit like, oh, should I ask her? Should I not? And it was almost like, when you're like at the edge of the diving board and you're like, do I?
Yeah, so if you're like, oh, do you know what? You can say to a mum maybe that you haven't, been out with before, I'm going to go to the park Saturday morning if you want to come with us. Yeah. Like, I think the boys get on really well.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. And then you still go to the park. Like you were going to go anyway.
Yeah.
And then hopefully she'll come and then you can have a nice time there.
Yeah, definitely. Good idea. I'm pregnant now and I'm worried about our relationship changing once the baby is here. What can I implement before to make sure that it doesn't happen?
Yeah, so I saw this one and I was a bit like, oh, God.
Shock's coming.
Because I don't think there's a shortcut through it, unfortunately. I think it's like, getting fit. You can't just magic a six-pack. Mm-hmm. I think the only way to get through it is through it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I think all you can do beforehand is promise each other that you're going to be patient with each other, that you're going to try and keep the dialogue open, you're going to try and support each other. And, I mean, you could probably do things like if you wanted to get really organised, have a weekly check-in or something like that. But I think... you've just got to go through it.
Yeah. I saw you saying on your social media, like, don't make yourself too busy so that you can actually enjoy. Say, for instance, I think you were going for a brunch, weren't you, on the Saturday? This was a while back now. Yeah. And you were saying that you're going to go for a lunch with your friend in the week, but you don't want to make yourself too busy because otherwise you get, like, the burnout at the end of the weekend. What are your top tips for making your social plans and your social calendar?
Yeah. So... I mean, it's a nice luxury to have because it means hopefully you've got your childcare down. Mm-hmm. But yeah, now that I feel like I have got my childcare down, I can make so many plans. And then I'm like, okay, I am feeling a bit of mum guilt, but it's because I literally haven't seen my son. Yeah. So I think that's legit. So one tip, I think, is recurring plans with friends. So this is really good for helping you keep it in the diary. I think this is a really good beginner one as well, like as in when you're first getting back into your social life. So we have, once a month, we have a girls' night. And it's the same day it's basically the last Wednesday of every single month. So we all know that we have to get childcare that night.
Yeah.
our partners can arrange to be home on time, or we can arrange external childcare. We can move around, the location. One of us plans it each time as well. So it's not all on you to like plan each time, figure it out. So that's just a really easy one that's always in the calendar. And then, this is just me personally. Everyone needs a different amount of social time. So I'm quite a sociable person. I like to have a few social things in a week. So I do once a co-working day a week.
Yeah.
Because then I think, well, I was like the with or without you energy. I was going to work anyway. So I might as well be doing it with someone. They can have a laugh, in a few breaks, have a lunch together. And then I probably do, one thing with my partner a week. So like one nice thing, if you like, with my partner a week. So whether that's like a little date night or a coffee together or a lunch together. And then for me, I've then seen, and then I'll squeeze in little things maybe, like just walk, like popping around someone's for a cup of tea or something. Yeah. So those are like, I would say, my main things. But think about what is easy for you and like what you could easily fit into your life. There's not going to be loads of different times that you have available, or it's not going to be, think about what we could do conveniently. So if it's like, can you commute to work with someone? That's, I know it sounds silly, but like you could probably have a good half-hour chat with somebody if you're commuting to the same place. Or could you walk to the nursery together but get a coffee on the way with someone? All these things that you're literally doing anyway. What about your exercise? Why don't you exercise with someone? So yeah, think about what would be good for you really. And also when you're most sociable, a lot of people can't be bothered to talk to anyone by the evening. So that's fine. Then grab a little lunchtime coffee with someone instead. You don't try and think that your social life has to be like it was before you had children. That's the big mistake that I made at the beginning. Always trying to think about it as evening plans and always like it has to include drinking. It really just doesn't. Yeah. It's actually better if it doesn't.
Yeah, no, definitely, because you actually get a full conversation and you're not just talking rubbish.
And you don't feel shit the next day. You feel amazing the next day.
Yeah, definitely. With your clients that you see, is it mostly relationship breakdown or friendships, or is it a complete mixture with people that are coming to you that are looking for help?
It's been a mixture. At the moment, it's friendships, but it has been relationships. So I think a lot of people come to me and they're like, I actually just don't have any friends anymore. And it's really embarrassing, but I never really speak to someone. Sometimes my husband does take the baby, or my partner takes the baby, and I actually don't have anyone to ring to go out with. Yeah. And I think that's so normal. Yeah. But I think people are thinking of it. They do. They actually do, because everyone is feeling the same way, really. So, you probably got people on your street that are feeling the exact same way. Yeah. So this is where you need to be a bit creative and a bit brave, and even if it's fake, manufacture these situations. If you do like the vibe of somebody at the park, try and keep bumping into them at the park, and then you can be like, oh, do you fancy getting a coffee after this? The children seem to be getting on well. Because nothing's going to change if you don't put yourself out there.
Yeah, you've got to go out of your comfort zone, haven't you? So tell us a little bit more about your business. I know you said that you've got some workshops and stuff coming up. Is that to the end of this year that you're starting those?
Yeah, so I've got some workshops for some other community. So I've got my own community, and then I also have one-to-one clients. But I'm doing some workshops for other people's communities, which will be cool. And then I'm doing my own event at the end of November, which I'm pretty terrified about. But it was on my vision board for the year. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. End of November, I've really just squished it in the end because I've just put it off. Yeah. But I'm doing it. So that'll be really good. So the event will be, it's just a local event, which will be telling mums how they can get at least one social outing in per month. So we'll be expanding a little bit on what we've spoken today about leaning on your friends and family a bit more. And then if that all goes well and I don't crumble, then I'm going to start doing some more regular ones next year, because I cover quite a few topics about mum guilt and anxiety, breathing the romance back into your relationship, making new friends or meeting up with old friends. So I've got like so many topics to cover, you know, the resentment that we spoke about earlier. So I need to think of a way that I can put that into a good format, because I think people are missing in real life events. You know, there's so much online.
I was going to ask you actually, do you think the social aspect of like people reaching out to friends, they feel like because I had this with my teenager, I ended up just deleting all her social media off her phone because I was like, you're not interacting with people, you're just scrolling and liking, and that you see that as that's your interaction. Do you think that us as adults, do you think that's why this knock-on effect is happening?
Yeah, so I have like a whole sort of like module within my community about fake fun activities.
Yeah.
So it could be, so you think you're connecting with people when you're watching Netflix together or watching a film together, when you're sending memes to each other or you're liking their stuff, or when you're just like sitting there eating or drinking but not really talking. And all of these things, that doesn't really count as connection. Everyone's like, yeah, I do. I spend every evening with my husband. And then when I dig into it, they actually don't even talk. They literally eat their dinner in front of the TV. So it's like, that's fine. Me and my husband do that sometimes, but we make sure that we have half an hour every day to chat.
Yeah.
So I think just think about those things, like see them. It's fine to do them. Everyone needs to like relax and wind down, but don't see them as like replacements for actual connection.
Yeah.
And then also, one of my like things that I try and help mums with, they say that they have no time for connection. You know, they're so busy, and I get it, but we spend 17 hours a week on social media, and that is wild.
Crazy.
And I know that it's not like hours at a time, it's just a few minutes here and there in between tasks. But if you just didn't do that, like as much, if you did even like 10% of that, you would have like an hour a day for like FaceTiming your best friend.
Yeah.
Or, you know, having a cup of tea next door for 20 minutes. So I just think about where your time is going. I mean, I'm terrible with the social media. And what I've done now is just implemented 2 half-hour slots in my day where that's where I check my social media, or that's where I'm allowed like a little break to go on my phone. And honestly, I finish my work so much quicker. So then when I finish my work so much quicker, I've got like half an hour before the nursery. So then, you know, I can ring a friend in that time, or I can like, you know, have a cup of tea with my husband or whatever it is. So there's that element of it as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram at Move Thru. So it's MOVETHRU_. And I'm Zoe Duce on LinkedIn, if anyone's on there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much. And if you do have any questions, or if you want to get some help with your relationships and friendships, make sure that you give Zoe a follow. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube at Mummahood The Podcast. And we will see you same time next week. Love you. Bye.